Analyst, and that's Professor David Moore, who's on the line. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Prof. So this is a significant development. I guess with the husband out of power, she was always going to be vulnerable, Mrs. Mugabe.
I guess that has made the situation a little bit easier for the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, because last time they hesitated a lot to have those charges go. So now that she's no longer the First Lady, I guess they won't interfere with the process. And so Grace Mugabe is in a much weaker position. And also her husband, the former president, is very ill, apparently. The journalists are being asked to prepare their obituaries and so on. So I guess that would also make her more vulnerable. It could also make it possible to work out some sort of extension of the time when she has to come, because I guess there are extenuating circumstances going on, but I really have no idea.
It would be difficult, even if he wanted to, President Mnangagwa, perhaps to try and intercede on her behalf. I mean, we already know there's no love lost between the two of them, but she does look like she's facing an uphill battle here.
Yeah, one never really knows what goes on between presidents of countries so close. And it would probably, again, I'm guessing here, but in the past, President Mnangagwa has extended quite a few olive branches to the former ruling family, plane rides to Singapore, medical expenses, and he says very kind things, and certainly wants to keep the ZANU-PF family, as it were, together. So I wouldn't be surprised if he or other diplomats were trying to make the situation, if not go away, at least take its time to unfold.
And it is interesting that the NPA, I suppose, prodded and pushed by AfriForum, have had to go this route. Well,
yes, and it's kind of interesting looking at some of the news blogs. There's one called OK Africa says AfriForum is a racist group. So the race card comes out in all of these things. But then in the same news item by the group that calls AfriForum racist, they are quite detailed about the actual events around the extension cord. So it looks like all sides agree on what happened. And also, I think in the news a couple of days ago, the model, Gabriella Engels, was reporting that she'd been intimidated by some of the boys in the Mugabe family, offered a modeling contract and that sort of thing. So that also adds up to the evidence that they would consider themselves in a bit of trouble. So I guess over the holiday season, we'll have some more exciting news on that front.
All right. So before we get on to our next topic in Zimbabwe, just a final word maybe. Do you think that Zimbabweans, by and large, are split over what happens to her, or do you think more people might want to see her have her day in court?
Oh, I think most people would like to see her have her day. I remember talking to a chap in one of the shopping centers in Harare last week, and I asked him, did he like Grace Mugabe? And he said yes, because she almost destroyed ZANU-PF. So I think that might be the prevailing opinion.
All right. Well, another big thing that happened this week in Zimbabwe was the release of the Motlanthe inquiry report into the August 1 violence that took place, post-election violence. And the president obviously delivered a version of what was in the report. What's your take on what it says?
Well, it's very nuanced. And a nuanced report, I think it's almost 150 pages long. A nuanced report lets the opposition say that it's a whitewash, and it has the people on the commission, and it was kind of a mixed commission. Some were quite clearly ZANU-PF, some were very neutral. Of course, former President Motlanthe was the head of it, and he's considered a very studious and considered personality. So there'll be a lot of controversy about it. Basically, the report says it would have been preferable for police to deal with this August 1st event, and you were there. I had just left the night before, back on August 1st. It would have been preferable for the police to deal with it, but they did call the military, and the military did shoot 6 people. So they say it was justifiable for the police to call them in because they could not deal with it. They actually, and I don't think it says this in the report, but if you recall, the police were on the wrong side of the coup. The military side of ZANU-PF won the coup, and there had been a lot of conflict between the police and the military in preceding months. So therefore, the police, as well as being a lot of the police forces being out in the countryside, finishing up with the election, a lot of them also had already been, let's say, displaced or replaced or dealt with summarily by the military. So the police were already in a weak position. And I remember some people on the day, July 31st, saying that the police they saw downtown in new uniforms, etc., weren't really police. They were military and police uniforms. So we have those questions, all sorts of uncertainties that I don't think the report really gets into. And it does say the police are actually still investigating the matter. So this will create a new situation. I suppose we would also have the families who, it is recommended in the report that the families get compensation, but I would imagine that, human rights lawyers are going to push the cases further by having those family members, take up cases themselves against the military. We have names of the people who were killed and injured, but we don't have names of the soldiers who shot.
All right.
So
Prof,
it's all very unclear.
I'm going to have to cut you, unfortunately. We're going to have to leave it there for the time being, but thanks very much indeed for giving us that update on the situation in Zimbabwe.